repeat that, or? Okay. Call to order the meeting at 7:55 PM for the Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee regular meeting. Roll call. Comments? Okay. We have Mr. Robert Battal scheduled to speak.
Thank you, sir. My name is Robert Battai. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here. I'm trying to wake up a dead horse. Okay? This thing about park land and park land, this is a $220,000 thing we have to get down and understand, okay? And for one thing, let me start out by saying that Long Trail Monarch Ranch we're talking about, that's in what's called a floodplain. Scott knows this full well. He's told me this like half a dozen times. Floodplain does not count for parkland, one word. Now here, this is in the section in the codes, Parkland Dedication, Section 48. This is not a typo, folks. Here they're talking about city, park, land, two words, but then down in here they're talking about no parkland, one word. You got to pay $165,000 in this illustration of 4.55 acres. There is a distinct difference between the two words park, land, and the one word parkland. So when you guys say the word parkland, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Park, land, two words includes open space, floodplain, wildlife preserve, and the one word parkland. We've got to get this figured out, and if you're not sure, it's complicated till you understand it, and then it's really not that complicated, but it's silly to have that ambiguity. We need to get an attorney opinion on this stuff, or we're just kind of flopping around in the dark, okay? I don't know what it's going to take. Open space does not equal parkland. Monarch Ranch doesn't have 1 square inch of parkland, okay? They owe us some money or some parkland. Excuse me, yeah, parkland, one word. Okay, and just briefly about the minutes here. There's no minutes online. And that seems to me counterintuitive. When we give people 72 hours notice of something, we should have all of the materials in there for 72 hours. That's the way I feel about it. Now, I don't know the state rules about that, but that just seems counterintuitive that, okay, well, we'll just bring the minutes in 5 minutes before. Do you even have them now? I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, now one thing I would like to say, I thought the maps were great. Great, with all the streets showing what was what neighborhoods. I didn't quite gather the priorities, so I don't know if that's easy for me to find out or not. Also, I'm wondering when Greg Manor is going to go through and on down south so that it goes around our old Manor, Parsons Street. And I would like to know, some of these costs that I find in the spreadsheets, are those shared costs with any other entities, or are those all coming out of the general fund?
Please address the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. My apologies.
30 seconds.
That's fine, that's mainly it. I thought the maps were really good. And I posted them and I got good comments from people that are real concerned about traffic issues and stuff like that. So remember also Eggleston, that's the stagecoach route that goes all the way through to the homestead of James B. Manor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the Community Impact Fee Advisory Committee and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by the chair or a committee member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Item number 1, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the minutes of February 8th, 2023 Community Impact Fee Advisory regular meeting.
I just have one thing, the same thing as before, my last name.
Were the minutes separate? I didn't receive a copy. I make a motion that we approve the minutes with the corrections noted.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Councilmember Small and seconded by Pais, or seconded by Councilmember Pais. All those in favor? Motion carries. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Leonard? Oh, any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Move on to item number 2 on the regular agenda, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a roadway impact fee district map.
So I made a few modifications to the map that we discussed previously. This one just shows the two areas, basically split up to the city limits. The roadway impact fee can only include items and areas that are within the city limits. So there are some future projects that we're still working on, but they're not in the city limits yet, so we can't include that. So this is just a revision, and these are the two service areas that we came up with. If you recall, the maximum distance either direction was 6 miles, so we did our best to split up the city accordingly. With future development, we may have to come back and adjust the service areas or possibly split them up into 3, but this is a good area. This is a good way to start off just doing 2. We were really close to being able to do 1, which would have been a lot easier, but.
Can I make a request? It's a little hard to tell on the roads that have like multiple owners and they like little parts are owned by this entity and then the other part is owned by that entity or whatever. Is there a way to add to your key a different color for county roads and a different color for state text dot roads? So that way it's super clear which portions of the road are owned by us versus not.
Yeah, we can do that. We actually have that on a different exhibit, but it wasn't with this one.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Leonard, especially for the areas in the EJT, which will not be part of that road impact fee, that those are going to be ones we want to consider, because they're all the black line.
Yeah,
What's the difference between service area 1 and service area 2?
we took the mileage from, one end of the city to the other, and we kind of split it up, and we tried to do our best to split it up with stuff we knew was in or stuff we had TIAs for. If you don't like it, we can change it. The idea was try to split it up as even as possible, so if something develops in service area 1, they won't have to pay more than what's in service area 2 and vice versa. And so later on the agenda, we go over some estimated costs. But yeah, I mean, if we get further down and there's some additional projects that are added, we can't adjust this. That's what we're doing right now. So if we see something where maybe we should adjust it, then we can do that.
And didn't we talk about, I guess, possible adjustment depending on how different the two costs are in the area? Or
Yeah.
After we run some numbers, is that
Yeah,
accurate?
I do have some numbers coming up. The only thing, they're not split up per like unit yet, but later on, I took all the projects from TIAs with their costs and did an estimation on that. So that is coming up. Like I said, there are a few TIAs coming up that for service area 2. So service area 2 may end up having to pay more, which means we may want to adjust it. well, we'll just have to wait and see. Because we're still working on some TIAs up there around Greg Lane. But if y'all want to see it split up differently, just let me know, and we can update the map with a different scenario with, tweaked areas.
But even if it's approved tonight, it could still be adjusted in the future if it turns out that. the
Yeah,
numbers are off or not.
you don't have to approve it tonight if y'all don't want to. Like I said, if y'all want to mark up some copies and email them to me, I can do that. We can update the numbers that way. It's up to y'all. But, I do know that the service area 2 is going to have higher growth just because some of the areas off Greg Lane are being annexed in by the city. And so there will be more work done along in the Greg Lane area. So we kind of offset that a little bit with going to the east because a lot of the improvements along the east are 290. A lot of these developments, they only access 290 at this point. They don't access or affect any city roads.
So basically, service area 1 is higher density and service area 2 is kind of bigger.
And yeah, it's bigger. So it'll help even it out a little bit because there's more improvements that will be required for service area 2.
We don't have to approve this, like this isn't a motion.
No,
thing.
it's not a motion yet. We're not to that part. We made some adjustments after the last meeting, so I was just bringing it back. Like I said, if any changes need to be made, we can make them. But at some point, we'll have to approve it and we'll have to go before council like I did last week for the land use map. But we're not to that point yet. So, because I'm also hoping before we get to that point, we'll have some more approved TIAs that we can add in. Because basically that'll help with the impact fees to cover some of these road windings and stuff that aren't covered by the TIA cost. Because when they submit TIAs, like, okay, it's $1 million to improve this, but we only account for 10% of the traffic, so they'll pay the 10%. So you got to find funding for the other 90, and that's what this fee is going to help do. Hopefully get some of these projects done quicker than waiting to save up a bunch of money from like 10 different projects.
Yes, please.
So I remember, recall you said that the radius that we have to stay in is 6 miles.
Yes.
Is there a cap on the number of service areas we can have as well?
No, larger cities, I think Austin has, I don't remember, 20 something. They have a lot. So, yeah, I mean, we could do a third area. We could look at that and kind of see what how that, lays out. This was just a first try. So, I mean, yeah, the issue is like for where Greg Lane is up there to the northwest, a lot of growth is happening there and there's gonna be a lot of work. So we kind of need to offset it with a larger area. So they're not paying twice as much as what service area 1 might have to pay. But we can take a look at maybe doing 3 areas just to see what the different costs would be.
Yeah, I'm kind of jumping ahead slightly, but I was looking at the service areas and the projects. And again, I apologize for jumping ahead, but it might be, in terms of having equitable, at least at this point, fees in each one. Because service area 2 is the higher growth one, so there's a lot of new TIAs and upcoming TIAs and projects in there, so their
Yes.
fees are only really going to go up. Whereas service area 1 is well established, and I don't know that much more coming in there. So
Yeah,
if we maybe create a third service area for like everything east of Boat Arc,
yeah, we can look at that.
and then 2-1, 2-2, and like, sorry, I jumped ahead, but would fall into that, and then as that area grows, another TIAs come in, and they're in service area 3 and it's not all in service area 2.
Yeah, I can do that. We could draw up a map and then split up what we have currently for projects based on the TIAs that we have. So yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I think I agree that Bodark would be a good separation between 2 and 3, at least down to 290.
Okay.
Yeah, in the area south of it, maybe that goes into 1, like, or 3, yeah. But because that one does have a TIA that's going to be part of it, the Ginsel TIA.
Yeah.
I don't know if that, maybe that would be beneficial to keep that in service area 1 to just sort of bring up their cost, keep it equitable. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Or, I mean, maybe we can get to the cost portion now so we can discuss it.
That's fine.
Is there any more discussion on agenda item number 2? Do we need a motion to close the agenda item or?
Yeah, no, you could just take no action.
Okay, I guess taking no action on agenda item number 2. And moving on to agenda item number 3. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on roadway impact fee capital improvements projects.
So this is the same map of the service areas. And then basically I just labeled where all the projects are. We have approved TIAs. And so basically this map just shows where everything is. And it just, breaks it up into the different service areas. Like I said, we can add in a third one to the east. Like I said, this is just more showing, okay, this is where we have TIAs. And like Scott said, there's a couple more that we're still reviewing up by Great Lane. And then there'll be some coming in the eastern portion of the city.
I have a question if I may. So I was looking at some of the costs, and so like 2-4 from the Monarch Ranch TIA, it has expand Greg Lane cross section 1.7 million. And then the same thing, New Haven has it in there, 945,000. I was mentioning earlier during the planning commission, like that may be something that using their TI mitigation funding that we do. So if we use their TI mitigation fees to expand Greg Lane, then that would pull it out of the roadway impact fee projects.
Yeah, I think so. That's something we need to double check with city legal and see, because you don't want to double dip is what you would be doing. So if they can pay for that portion, that project, then yeah, we would take it out. So.
Yeah, so the improvement would still be constructed. It just wouldn't be part of the impact fee. So then that would drop service area 2 by almost 2.7 million.
Yeah.
But I don't know the timing on that because it's sort of tricky of like, I guess we'd have to have a, again, as mentioned during commission, that phasing agreement. If we can get a phasing agreement approved with New Haven and Monarch Ranch in terms of what infrastructure is built and when, that would probably give us the comfortability of removing it from the roadway impact fee.
That's how TxDOT and Travis County handle it.
Mhm.
So yeah, so basically it would be where they would phase it, and once they reach like a certain number of like lots platted and stuff, then they would have to construct the improvements. So.
Is there a methodology for how these roadway impact fees are going to be assessed, or is that a TBD kind of thing?
It's TBD, but basically how it works is you go through and you get all the mileage, and then you basically, you construct this project and you affect so many miles of the existing streets, and it's based on that. I haven't gotten that far along in that.
So there's no set methodology yet, but it's like you're working on
Right,
it.
but there's steps that we have to follow for setting it. And that's how they've done it in Austin and Leander. And
Yeah, it's based on like the vehicle miles,
it has to
estimated
do with
vehicle
vehicle miles,
traveled.
so. Yeah, that's.
Is
when it
there a
gets-
way you could share that methodology maybe in the next meeting? So that'll
Yeah, like I
give us a
said, we're still
basis?
looking into it because this is new for us too. So, yeah. Yeah, we can go over it. We'll see. The next meeting, we may get back on water and wastewater, but if we have time, maybe we can go ahead and throw some roadway stuff.
It's similar to the water wastewater community impact
Yeah.
fees, where we set the projects, and those projects has costs, and then we come back and say, okay, now those project costs turn into this amount for an impact fee. The same thing in here is like we kind of set, through the TIAs, like what the projects are that would go into the roadway impact fee, and then we come back with, okay, that means this type of impact fee per vehicle mile,
Yeah.
or whatever, per your service area.
Do we have to guesstimate the vehicle miles then to do that, like the LUEs?
I think it's a little bit different for the vehicles. I think it has to do with the length of the roadways that we're talking about. Like I said, I'll look into it and I will come back at the next meeting and we can go over that.
Thank you.
And like the water and wastewater is like I think it's like 50% of the estimated costs is like the cap. Is that right on the water and wastewater side?
Well, what we do, we recommend a fee and council can set it. Typically, we recommend 50% of what is estimated.
Which is the max, is that right? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you can go higher, it's
We
just,
use- yeah.
there is a whole formula and process you have to go through, which is
Th-
time consuming
that-
and
yeah.
difficult, so that's why most cities don't, they'll just
Most
half the
cities
fee.
go with the 50.
Is there something similar on the roadway impact fee or not?
Yeah, it would be the same thing where we come up with what it is per service mile and then we would present it to council.
But I don't think it gets halved, like the water wastewater
No,
does.
I think that one's a set, that one, yeah.
Do you have a copy of the Area 2 impact fees service area, a table? Or did I? I got the Area 1.
Oh, it should have been right after. It should have been page 10.
Okay, I didn't get a copy, that's okay.
Would you mind?
Also, by creating a third district, that 2-1 and 2-2 would be now 3-1 and 3-2. That's another 825,000 that would not be in that 4.7 million.
Yes.
That would help to balance out a little bit better, even more.
Then I think in that area, potential service area 3, there's another TIA, the Ginzel one, which is the property that's north of Carriage Hills. They're working, they have the zoning and everything for commercial multifamily townhomes. So they have a TIA that's in review, so that's why it's not included yet. And then there's the townhomes there at Kimbrough and 290, they have a TIA as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that one will also be part of phase 3.
And yeah, I need to check that one because I can't remember. We're working on it with TxDOT, right, with that one, and the county said no because that part of Old Kimbrough's cities.
Yeah, we're finalizing the annexation for that section of Kimbrough, but yes. I guess also just how timing wise too, like when those TIAs get approved and can get worked into this, if it, at some point these need to get approved. We can't just wait for every TIA to get approved because there's always going to be TIAs.
Yeah.
But those ones are pretty well along, especially
Yeah.
the townhome one.
Yeah, the townhome one is, I'll take a look tomorrow and see what it is.
But I guess the point was if we create a service area 3, right now it may only have 2 projects, but we probably could have some other projects in it as we go through this, and then hopefully have 3 service areas that are pretty equitable in project costs.
You said something earlier about TIA fees, if you have a project and the TIA fees are $300,000 and then the roadway impact fee calculation turns out to be $200,000, is it mitigated with the TIA fees, or is it a double, you were talking about double dips earlier?
Yeah, I suppose we call it like Greg Lane, because I know Monarch Ranch's, their TI mitigation fee is like 1.1 million and whatever it was. Maybe theirs was higher and New Haven's is 1.1, but either way, it was a pretty substantial amount that, we'd be looking, and we have to work with the county and TxDOT because they're part of those TIAs, improving Greg Lane, but then in this roadway impact fee had those mitigations in there. And so I'm sure like when you went through the mitigations, like, because this isn't all of them, you probably what wasn't constructed, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it was all turn lane stuff, like usually other things will be constructed, but if we're using their TI mitigation fees to expand Greg Lane, then I don't think that would then also be calculated in the roadway impact fee, because then it is like double charging them in a sense. It's like you're paying the same mitigation twice. So that rate would get pulled out, and then that kind of just benefits the whole service area because that
Yeah.
lessens it by that much more. So,
And the methodology, the details will come out later on in the process, is that?
Yes. I mean, the main thing is just, like I said, we don't want to double dip. So if their funds are up there, they have like turn lanes and stuff like Scott was saying. And so, you know, they're, what we're going to look at is what their funds can cover. And then whatever the funds from the TIAs in that area don't cover, then we would add those in for the roadway impact fees.
I had a question on the project in Service Area 2 on Boys the Ark. So it said it's expand the roadway by 4 feet, city portion. What does 4 feet gain us?
It gives you more like a shoulder and just a little bit wider. The issue with that is Bodar, it goes from county, and then there's, I can't remember, 1,100 feet that's city, and then it goes back to county all the way to 290. So their TIA just showed that, but what we would do is we would, show that. I don't know if eventually the rest of Bodark would be city. And so they're just showing that. And basically, if you look at their TIA, it just says it widens it to give you a little bit more room because it is kind of narrow. So that would be one where, we would look, and hopefully if something else comes in, they would have to expand it more to widen it. The issue is working with Travis County, because is it feasible to just improve 1,100 feet? Probably not.
and we can't include, because Bodark on our thoroughfare plan is like a mad 4. It's definitely more than 4 feet worth of pavement. But you can't include, that type of cost of saying, hey, this section here, ultimate build out is 4 lanes. We want the roadway impact fee to fund up to 4 lanes. You have to go with what's in a TIA, which is 4 feet.
Think so. I can look into that and find out. But usually you base everything on what's shown on TIAs. And so that's what they're just showing, because that's the mini max. So.
Yeah, if you can look into that, see if we can include portions of our thoroughfare plan.
I think it's going to have to show in one of the TIAs that it's required to be widened that much. But I'll double check.
I have a question. Is there ever going to be a time where you're going to have projects that are not 100% in the service area? And how do you going to deal with that?
We tried to make it where it's a lot easier if it's 100, but you can split it up to like, say, like Old Kimbrough on 2-2, it's 125,000. If somehow we split it and part of it's in one, so you would just do, okay, well, this one has 90%, so it would be 90% of the 125,000, and then the other one would be 10%. We tried to make it easier to make everything 100% because it's a lot easier to track and everything. So that would be a recommendation, to try to have everything 100%.
Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, even the splitting it up into a third one, we could still do it to where everything would be like 100%. Like I said, it's a lot easier if you have to keep track of it or whatever to just do the 100. But we can do 50/50 or whatever, and we can look at that to see, based on the costs and everything. But we just did so it was all 100% to make it easier.
Is there any additional discussion on agenda item number 3?
I'm good.
Do you have any motions? We'll close agenda item number 3 and then do you have any motions for adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion made by council or committee member Leonard, seconded by committee member Meyer. And do I have, are all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned at 8:29 p.m.